Hello, and welcome back to Buzby Gaming. I'm Tony, and today we're going to talk about a classic game on the PS1. In fact, it's one of the first games that comes to mind anytime I think about the console. Even right now, as we speak, this game is in my PS1. And that game is Driver, You Are the Wheelman. Now, I know immediately right now half of the audience is like, hell yeah, great game, and the other half, and this is if you know what Driver is, which I'm pretty sure if you're a modern game player or even a retro game player, you know what game I'm talking about. The other half, as I was saying, immediately think of Driver 3. And my personal opinion on Driver 3, it wasn't as bad as everybody makes it out to be, but it was not great. Driver 1 and Driver 2 are 10 times better in my opinion. Maybe not from a technical standpoint, but for gameplay and just the retro value of those games to us nostalgic game players, it just stands out, these first two games. I'm going to be talking about just the first game today because it was such an impactful part of my young video game playing days. Even still to this day, like I said, I have it in my PS1 console right now. I'll fire it up and go through Miami, get some police attention, and then just end up continually ramping over that hump that's over in the residential district in Miami. But yeah, it's a great game and kind of strange because it, like I said, everybody had this game. Everybody I know owned this game or owned Driver 2. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of an incredible technological marvel at the time because you got not only just one map, you got four maps. You got Miami, San Francisco, Las Vegas, and New York City. Tanner is a former race car driver turned police officer, and he is thrown into this underground world by his lieutenant, Mackenzie. He goes from New York to Miami and basically does like these driving jobs. Even the opening scene where you're going through and you gotta do crazy shit like the Salem. I know it's not called a Salem, it's a slalom or something like that, but I have trouble with words, as anybody from this channel would know. I can't speak worth a shit. But yeah, you had to go in between the posts, you had to go around on the lap, you had to stop, do a 180 turn, 360. It was crazy list. Even still to this day, I play the game often, and I cannot pass that the first time I try. And that's still probably pretty bad. I mean, a lot of people probably laugh at me for that one. I don't know if I should keep that in the video, but anyway. In all seriousness, I mean, this game was incredible. The maps I'm going to show, I probably already had shown them on screen. They are pretty damn big. I mean, not only that, the popularity of this game kind of threw me a little bit because, you know, it was the mid to late 90s, and Nicolas Cage was actually a big star back then. He was coming up to be a big star back then. Big action movie guy. Face Off is probably one of my favorite movies that he did, along with Gone in 60 Seconds, which really strangely I thought was gonna be the Driver movie. I mean, even when I saw the trailer, because it didn't say Gone in 60 Seconds in the beginning, even still to this day, I watch this movie and I'm like, man, this could have been a Driver movie, because in a strange way, I don't know if they were intentionally doing it or if it was just like an artistic direction, but Tanner has a striking resemblance to Nicolas Cage, and I'm not the only person that thinks so. Not only in Driver 1, but in a portable version of the game, fans make references that he actually resembles Nicolas Cage, the actor, quite a bit. It even got to the point in Driver 2 where they changed and tweaked his appearance just so that he could be, you know, different from Nicolas Cage. it was just really strange because, even still to this day, when I put the game in and the loading screen comes up, my brother-in-law was like, he'll stop in the middle of a conversation and be like, look, Nicolas Cage. So it's, it's a really great game. The game, it's a kind of really convoluted story. He starts off as a police officer in New York, goes to Miami, works for, small jobs here and there to get the attention of a guy named Rufus. Now, Rufus gets him to this Cassidy family that takes him to all these different cities. Through all these convoluted means, the actual end mission was incredibly hard because not only is the AI super aggressive, but they are like coming at you all at once. It's the most challenging level in any driving game I've ever played, and that's because you're saving the President of the United States. You find out through the story that Cassidy's family, this crime syndicate, their goal is to assassinate the President of the United States. You, using your skills as a driver, escape with the President and get him to safety. Now, in the ending cutscene, Tanner is offered back his badge from his Lieutenant Mackenzie, and though you don't see it because the camera's kind of far away, he actually refuses to take his badge back. Now, depending on what missions you chose, you got two different endings, and that was one where it shows Tanner returning to Miami in his green Jeep and just driving down the road, and it's kind of like insinuating that maybe he's just wanting to live there, or maybe he's wanting to get back into the Wheelman game. I don't know. It's never really elaborated on. And then the other one is him driving off into the sunset with the same green Jeep, but with a pretty young female in the passenger seat. So I don't know if this game was actually intended to be the only game, or if they were planning on a sequel from the get-go. I would imagine that it was just like a dip in the toe in the water kind of thing. So I don't believe that they had plans for a sequel right off the bat, because in the next game and all the subsequent games after this, you're a police officer again, and yet he refused to take his badge back at the end of the game. So it's a little bit really kind of strange there. Another thing I thought was really cool is that though I didn't get a chance to buy it, the game was re-released on ISO, which is the iPhone, iPad lineup, and it was, updated game engine, graphics. They redid the soundtrack and the voice acting for the cutscenes, and the game actually looks pretty damn good. I mean, I looked everywhere I could to try and get a copy of this game, because I'd pay $10-15 for this game. I love Driver, and the fact that if I could get it on a mobile version that looks this damn good, I definitely would. But Gameloft, who was the company that redid this version of Driver, I think ended up losing the license since then. So you can't really find a copy of it legitimately anywhere. But, if you're savvy enough, I'm pretty sure there's probably a place out there you can get it on your phone or on an emulator or something like that. Driver San Francisco, which is the latest Driver game, didn't perform very well, and it's really messed up because Driver 3 did the entire franchise a disservice. It kind of drug everything down. To be honest with you, Driver San Francisco is actually a pretty decent game if you give it a chance. It has a weird premise, there's a weird gameplay kind of loop with it, but as a driving action adventure game, it is actually pretty damn good, pretty damn entertaining too. Again, this is a game, Driver San Francisco, that you can't buy digitally, or you're going to have trouble finding it digitally. I actually have the Xbox 360 version around here somewhere, so I can plug it, through backwards compatibility. I could put it in my Xbox One and play it that way. I believe it's actually also backwards compatible with the PS4, but I already have the 360 version, so I'm not going to go out and buy, two different versions of the same game, especially when there's no real notable difference between the two. But this is a video about Driver 1. Now, this game was, oddly enough, even still to this day, it's considered a GTA clone, which I find really strange because Driver was out before. Like, the 3D driving third-person camera view was Driver before GTA 3. GTA 3 was the first, outside the camera, outside the car view with the camera. GTA 1, 2, and London 1969 were all a top-down perspective. Driver was the first one that had the third-person camera. So I don't know why it's considered a GTA clone when Driver did it first. Now, unfortunately, like I said, with the poor sales and the Driver 3 dragging the entire franchise through the dirt, the likelihood that we're going to see a revival or a remake of this game is probably pretty low. Now, I personally am sad about that. Like I said, is one of my favorite games, but maybe that's for the best. Maybe it's better to be left in the past than left alone. I like what Gameloft did, how they took the classic game. The overall story didn't change. All they did was updated the visuals and the audio and just re-released it to a new audience. And I sincerely hope that Ubisoft comes to their senses and they're like, hey, the anniversary's coming up here pretty soon. Let's re-release this on mobile platforms or on the modern consoles or PC. I don't know. My closing thoughts on it is I think Driver was just a great classic game, and it was really kind of ahead of the curve, and it deserves more respect from modern gamers and developers for the path it took. It made 3D driving games better as a whole just from its existence. So I personally would love a remake. I would love them to redo it. I think Ubisoft still owns the license, if I'm not mistaken. And I really, really, really hope that they remake this game. That's all I have for you today. Take care, have a good weekend, stay safe, and we will see you in the next one.